Would you believe me if I told you that a duchess is getting ready to leave Britain right now? Not for a trip or a book tour, but for something much more important that the palace is trying very hard to keep quiet. The Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, is planning what people in the know call a strategic escape to Portugal. What is the schedule? January is coming up quickly. But this is what really shocks me. Sarah doesn't get anything, but Prince Andrew does get moved to a smaller royal home. There is no cottage, no grace and favor flat, and no palace help at all. There is only a January deadline. Not now. Everyone in the family was. I dug them up and told them to come on. And her daughter's beach house on the Atlantic was ready for her. This is the story of a woman who married into one of the world's most powerful families and then lost everything. How? One email took away everything she had worked for. And why Portugal could be her only way out of a problem that won't go away. But where is she really running away from? Why does the palace really want her to leave? You will be shocked by what I'm about to say, so stay until the end. But first, click the subscribe button right now if you want to know the whole truth about what's going on in the House of York. Believe me, there is more to this rabbit hole than you can imagine. What is the Portugal plan? Let me draw you a picture. There is a guest room being set up at the Costa Terra Golf and Ocean Club in Portugal right now. Not for a friend on the weekend. Not for a person staying for a short time. Just for Sarah Ferguson. To arrive in January. For what some sources are calling a long stay, which could last a long time. This may make you wonder, so what? Rich people have places to go on vacation. But this is different in this way. Costa Terra isn't just any high-end neighborhood. This is a very private place for celebrities to hide out on Portugal's Atlantic coast that is strongly guarded. Our conversation is about the kind of place where Madonna has landed. Had to get along better with the police officer than with Prince Andrew, just to make sure that people would say nice things about her on the way back. Nicole Kidman keeps a private home where Scarlett Johansson hides from the media. One neighbor told media something scary while staying anonymous. It's been said that Fergie will be here sometime in January. There is no doubt that this is not a weekend break. Take a moment to think about that. People who live nearby know that this is not a vacation but a way to leave. What is she really running away from? It's harder to understand and more upsetting than you think the answer is. Because you were busy with the incidents involving Prince Andrew, Sarah Ferguson's life has been falling apart around her. That collapse has now hit its last stage. The Royal Lodge eviction, this is what the mainstream media isn't making clear. Sarah and Andrew are being taken away from Royal Lodge against their will. They've won their home, where they've lived together for 17 years. 17 years. For them, this is more than just a house. This is where they got back together after getting divorced. This is where they showed everyone that strange setups could work. This is their safe place. King Charles has made it very clear what he thinks. They are no longer there. There will be no more talks, extensions, or royal rights to protect them. But this is where it really breaks my heart. It is said that Prince Andrew will be moving to Sandringham by himself. Without a doubt, it's a downgrade. He does have a place to go, though. He is still king in a way. He still has some defenses, even though they are weaker. Hey, Sarah Ferguson? She doesn't get anything. Take a moment to think about that. Palace experts have said that there is no plan for Sarah. There was no cottage ready for her. There is no grace and favor in the flat being ready. Not even a short-term fix while she figures things out. I'm not going to sing a song. I don't have a speech planned either, I'm just so happy to be here today. The message from the house is very easy to understand. Set things up on your own. You're by yourself. As the Duchess of York, she is about to lose her house. About to lose your home. Could you picture that? One day, you'll be living in an old house in Windsor. After that, you have to quickly find a place to live because the King of England wants you to leave. Now comes the scary part that everyone should be paying attention to. The upcoming split from Andrew isn't just about where they live. People who know the couple say it was final and very hard on them mentally. Even that is over now that they've lived together as unofficial partners for almost 20 years and kept up their unique relationship after their split. Recent news stories talk about tense dinners at Royal Lodge. Having tough talks. One person who knows Sarah says she is panicking, nervous, and getting more and more emotional about leaving Andrew for the first time in decades. But why? Why is this taking place now? What changed? Now I'm going to show you what the house has been trying to hide. The link to Epstein. Let's talk about the email that made everything fall apart. This is where Sarah's carefully rebuilt reputation fell apart totally. The press got a hold of an email that came to light. She said that Jeffrey Epstein was her best friend in it. Best friend. Those two words have been following her around ever since. I have a question for you before we go any further. How many of your friendships would be able to handle that? How many of the ties in your past might seem sketchy? Under the brightest possible light. But this is why it's so important for Sarah. This was more than just bad. This was a disaster. She lost all of the charity roles she had worked hard to build overnight. She was fired as an ambassador for the British Heart Foundation. The group she had worked with for years quietly cut ties with her. Nothing was said or explained, there was only quiet. Don't forget? She would tell me to go on this show and be myself. This is the same woman who took £15,000 from Jeffrey Epstein years ago to help pay off her bills. Because of the money, the connection, and the favor, she will never be able to fully leave. But things are getting worse, much worse. The Epstein investigation was recently brought back to life by American lawmakers. More demands, more stress, and more interest in everyone, and I mean everyone. Who got help from Epstein's means, network, and connections? It's clear that Prince Andrew is at the center of this mess, but Sarah is back on the map. Sources with knowledge of the congressional investigation state that the investigation is looking into everyone who had a connection to Epstein during the relevant time periods. The Duchess of York is part of that. I really lost track of this story. That's what I mean. Yes. We live together completely. A person in the US who knows a lot about Costa Terra told reporters something very interesting. It's a great place for Fergie to hide while Congress deals with the Epstein case. It will be nice for her to be with family and away from the toxic environment in England. Did you get that? Stay hidden. Take a break. Not go. Stay hidden. Portugal isn't just sunny and fancy. Italy is a shield. It's for safety. It's to get away from American detectives, British tabloids, and the pressure of the palace. But is that far enough? Can you really get away from such a big issue by moving to a different country? The blackout of the media, something else was going on while Sarah's world was falling apart. Something that everyone who cares about openness should worry about. ITV's Loose Women quit Sarah Ferguson without a fuss. If you don't know, this was one of her usual platforms. A spot where she could connect with people, fix her image, and show the real her. The producers made it very clear why. The storm that is going around her shouldn't get near their production. Take a moment to think about that. The British media has never been afraid to talk about controversial people, but they felt that Sarah Ferguson was too dangerous for their brand and too toxic to talk about. Then there were rumors of something even worse. A hand that couldn't be seen did it. It was always there. And it was, talks with a group of people known as a brand rescue team. Sarah has hired experts to help her figure out how to make money now that she has lost her titles, her charity work, her media profile, and her place in the royal family. It's no longer about making her look better. This is about basic money matters. For decades, this person has lived off of royal ties and charitable work. How does this person suddenly start making money when all of those doors have shut? She has to start over at a very old age, and her image is in shambles because of the Epstein scandal. But this is what really shows how bad things have gotten. Want to know who's scared the most about this? Who is truly terrified as they watch their mother's life fall apart? The daughters of Sarah are Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. What the daughters did to help. Several sources state that both Eugenie and Beatrice are very worried about their mother. And who could blame them? They're seeing their mother lose everything while their dad's case keeps making news. It is said that Sarah's two children want her to do three things: take a step back from public life, work on her image behind closed doors, and get real, measurable space from the scandals involving their parents. Now, though, things get really interesting. What looks like a plan to save lives could actually be an intervention. In 2022, Princess Eugenie and her husband Jack Brooksbank bought a home in Costa Terra. It's worth a lot of money. The neighborhood is full of famous people and has a golf course, gym, and some of the most expensive homes in Portugal. Now, they're getting it ready so that Sarah can live there, not just visit. Take a moment to think about that. The girls know that January will be hard. There is a place away from the British press where their mother can live without being watched all the time. This is where she can try to rebuild some sort of a normal life. But I want you to think about something else. Is this really just about keeping people safe, or is it also about keeping people in line? I kind of have this about making sure their mom doesn't do anything else that could hurt the family's image even more. For this is what's really going on below the surface. The split in Sarah and Andrew's relationship is now known to everyone. King Charles is putting a lot of pressure on the move of Andrew to Sandringham. His money situation is bad. There is no way to fix his image, and Sarah can't follow him. She's not being asked. And people inside the palace say she's not wanted there at all. Someone who knows Sarah and Andrew well said that their recent meetings were heartbreaking. Dinners were full of hard talks about how they were going to break up. Sarah is said to be getting more and more emotional, and she sometimes breaks down in tears because she is scared of what will happen next. This is a woman who has been living with Andrew in this unique way after getting divorced for almost 20 years. Even though they got divorced in 1996, they were never really apart. They lived together. They helped each other out. They showed this unusual but seemingly useful partnership to the public. That's now over. She is being literally split up from the only relationship she has had all through adulthood. That one person who knew what it was like to lose royal favor. For what reason? So why Portugal in particular? France? Why not? Why not Spain? Have you thought about going to the Caribbean? The answer shows how planned this holiday really is. Ted Harbert, the boss of NBC, called Costa Terra the Hamptons of Europe, and he's right. The world's wealthiest people come here to get privacy without giving up comfort. There are private beaches, private security, private chefs, and most importantly, a community of Hollywood stars and business moguls who know how important privacy is. This is great for a woman who just lost all of her royal rights and wants to keep up her social status. She can hang out with other famous, rich people without drawing attention to herself. The shamed Duchess is not her. She is just another wealthy resident. But there is a more strategic way to look at this from another point. When compared to the UK, Portugal's press rules are not as strict. Which have been torturing the York family for decades, don't reach as far there. American investigators would have to deal with more problems related to their area. A lot more work needs to be done to get to her, but it's not impossible. This is something that most people don't know. Portugal has become a safe place for rich British people to live abroad who want to avoid taxes and have privacy. The Portuguese government actively seeks out people with a lot of money. There are visa programs that are made just for people like Sarah. It should be pretty easy for her to get permanent residency, which makes me wonder if this is a short exile or a permanent move. The mess with money. But there's another problem going on below the surface that makes getting away even more important. Money, or more accurately, not having any of it. Recently, Sarah Ferguson's financial problems came up again in the news. This time, it was her work with Pegasus Group Holdings, a failed Bitcoin business that she actively supported. Reports say Sarah got £200,000 up front and a promised £1.2 million bonus before the company went bankrupt, making investors very angry and hurting her image even more. Now, that story is being told again. At the exact moment that the Royal Lodge was kicked out. Random event? There are no accidents in the world of British newspapers and royal news. This is well planned. Someone wants to talk about Sarah's money again in the news. Convincing her to love him. He would greet her with red roses and a quiet dinner both days. At the same time, she loses her house. Why? Because it supports the idea that Sarah Ferguson is careless with money. They say she makes bad decisions, hangs out with shady people, and doesn't deserve royal backing or protection. And now comes the really scary part. Being under a lot of financial stress isn't just stressful for someone who is about to lose her home. It could have terrible results. Sarah can't afford to live in Windsor without a Windsor house over her head. The costs she's used to, the standard of living she's kept up, and the social duties she's expected to carry out all take a lot of money. What will happen now that it's gone? What happens when the charity work stops, the media interviews end, and the passive income from royal ties stops? That's why the girls are helping out. On top of everything else, they are seeing their mother risk losing all of her money. A house in Portugal is more than just a place to relax. It's helpful in real life. By doing this, their mother is able to avoid going bankrupt. The last few days at Royal Lodge. There is new information about Sarah's last days at Royal Lodge, and it's really sad, no matter what you think about the choices she made. According to sources, Sarah spent a lot of time in the private bar at Royal Lodge, but she didn't drink too much. That's not what this is about. It's about hiding, telling trusted staff members all of her fears about what's going to happen. One employee, who did not want to be named, said that Sarah is scared about many things at once. She is afraid of losing her home, her finances, being pulled back into the Epstein investigation, and, most painfully, how all of this will affect Beatrice and Eugenie's lives and identities. Take a moment to think about that. Imagine that you are in your 60s and have already been through a public split, years of being made fun of by the media, financial scandals, and being made fun of by other people. You've put together something that looks like a life. You and your ex-husband were able to live together. You have stayed in touch with your children. No matter how flawed it is, you've made a place for yourself. Then, after a few months, everything falls apart again. The 17-year-old house you've lived in. Gone. How things are between you and your ex-husband. The end. Your good name? Broken down. Your safety with money? Not sure. What's next? Not at all clear. Friends and sources who have talked to reporters say that Sarah's mental health is fragile, anxious, and getting more and more desperate. They say that the plan to go to Portugal is not a fancy vacation. It's not even a planned escape. It's a plan to stay alive. It's the only choice left now that all the other doors have shut. Some people who follow the royal family think she'll come back once the storm is over. They think this is just a temporary exile and that she'll return to Britain when the Epstein scandal is over, King Charles's attention is diverted to something else, and Andrew's position is stable. Others, though, think this will last forever, especially if Eugenie and Jack keep making Portugal their home and their kids grow up there, making it their main place in Europe. Sarah might decide to live in southern Europe full-time and only come back to Britain sometimes. It's quiet, cozy, and away from the tabloids, and it's looking more and more like it might be her only real choice. From the palace's point of view, let's take a moment to see this from the palace's point of view. Because it's important to know why they want Sarah to leave in order to understand the whole situation. King Charles wants to make the royal family more efficient. That's not just a guess. That's the goal he set. Fewer royals working means lower costs and better efficiency. In the 21st century, it is a modern organization that still has value. That picture doesn't have room for Sarah Ferguson. She doesn't work as a princess. She hasn't been in decades. She is no longer married to a prince who is no longer responsible for public tasks. She doesn't add anything to the organization, but she does pose a huge risk. Every incident that involves her makes the family look bad. Every financial problem makes people wonder about the royal court's judgment. People think of the worst thing about the Queen every time her name is in the same headline as Epstein's. From the point of view of a cold institution, taking her away makes perfect sense. She's a burden that doesn't bring any benefits. And King Charles is nothing if not formal in the way he thinks, no matter what his personal feelings are. We all want to say thank you very much. But there's also something else going on here. There was something deeper and more complex. Prince Andrew's fall from glory is one of the most dramatic in modern royal history. He went from being the Queen's favorite son to being pretty much shut out of public life. He was ruined by the Epstein Association. The House saw that take place. They saw how one link, one friendship, or one group could erase decades of royal security and privilege. It became clear to them that some stories are so harmful that the only way out is to be completely separate. They see Sarah Ferguson as a living reminder of that tragedy. The issue will never go away as long as she's linked to Andrew, lives in a royal home, or is seen as a member of the royal family. Getting rid of her from the royal lodge isn't just about the land. It has to do with cutting the visual and physical link between the Epstein affair and the throne. It's about making space so that everyone can see and understand. It's very bad. It might not be fair. But it's planned. And, from the palace's point of view, important. What this means for the king or queen. Let's take a step back and think about what Sarah Ferguson's forced exile means for the government as a whole. This family has looked out for its own for hundreds of years. The royal family has always stuck together, even when they've been involved in scandals or done things that would make normal families look bad. They've given grace and favor homes to cousins who live far away. They've kept making exceptions for people who aren't even remotely related to the line of succession. Family loyalty has been more important to them than almost anything else. Sarah Ferguson is the mother of 2 princesses who are in line to become queen. She used to be married to a prince, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and she stayed close until Her Majesty died. She went to family events. She was present at formal events. She stayed with the family for all intents and purposes. She wasn't quietly helped through a hard time, and she wasn't given time to rebuild secretly. Now she's being thrown out with nowhere to go. What does that say about the government today, when King Charles is in charge? This shows that institutional security has its limits, that blood ties are less important than institutional risk, and that the monarchy will sacrifice people to protect itself, even people with close family ties. This is how things are now, a streamlined, efficient, risk-averse kingdom that can't afford the luxury of loyalty when it costs a lot. And if they're going to do this to Sarah Ferguson, who is the mother of several royal girls, how does that affect other royals who aren't very important? That person might trip, mess up, or become more of a problem than an asset. What does that mean for them? She was so right. We'll talk about Lisa Marie today. Priscilla is what we see. It's clear and scary what it says. You're only royal if you help people. No matter what your past is, the institution will kick you out as soon as you become a problem. No matter the connection or the cost to themselves. The Daughter's Quest. Now let's talk about Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, who are in the worst possible situation in all of this. Just for a moment, put yourself in their shoes. There's a big issue going on with your dad that's bad for the royal family. Your mom is connected to that scandal through her own ties and being close to it. Your home is being taken away from you and your family. The bond between your parents is ending. The government you were born into is trying to get your mom to leave. While your parents' lives fall apart, you're supposed to keep up your royal duties, your public image, and your relationships with the rest of the family. 2 sisters are said to be in a terrible situation by different sources. They love their mom. There's no doubt about that. But they also know that being close to her is hurting their names and making it harder for them to keep their place in royal life. The reason they are planning the Portugal flight is because of this. It's not rejection, it's choosing to stay away. They're keeping their distance from their mother to keep her safe and private, but it also keeps them safe. Some critics have said that by giving Sarah a fancy escape, they're keeping her from being fully responsible for the decisions she makes. They are protecting her from the effects that could make her change for the better. Oh, but is that fair? Are girls supposed to make their moms suffer in order to make a point about responsibility? Where do you draw the line between helping your family and letting bad behavior happen? These questions are too hard to answer. Who is Beatrice? Eugenie is living them in real time while the whole world watches. One thing is for sure, this will never be the same between them and their mother again. The situation is changing from Sarah being a mom to Sarah being a child. The balance of power is shifting, which makes things more difficult and has different effects on different people. The part of the media. The British papers have something to do with all of this, so we need to talk about it. They are actively working to destroy Sarah Ferguson. British media have used Sarah Ferguson as a punching bag for more than 30 years. They made fun of her size. They made fun of the clothes she wore. They went into great depth about her money problems. There were sexy scenes where they took pictures of her. They called her mean names that stuck with her everywhere. Now that she's at her weakest, they're following her around like sharks that have smelt blood. Every story about the escape to Portugal, every detail about the eviction from the Royal Lodge, every new financial scandal, and every mention of the Epstein link. To cause as much shame as possible, it's all being sped up, repeated, and used as a tool. Is this reporting, or is it something else? When does news in the public interest turn into damaging the public? There is no doubt that Sarah Ferguson is a flawed person who has made bad decisions. But the constant, mean-spirited coverage she's had for decades goes beyond just telling facts. It's about you. Yes. Would he come see you in the Flatenplad? Garden of Lavender. That behavior is mean, and it's directly causing the exile we're seeing happen. The papers know that each story they run makes it harder for Sarah to get back on her feet. Every news story about her makes her more unattractive to jobs, charities, and media companies. They're not just telling people about her exile, they're also helping to make it happen and making money from it. For every click, every buy, and every video viewer who sees her fall, the media is making money off of the destruction of Sarah Ferguson, even though they say they're just covering the news. What will happen next? What's the next step? What really happens when the date comes up in January? Based on what we know now, this is the most likely outcome. Andrew possibly moves to Sandringham before Christmas to get away from all the attention of the media. Spends the holidays with Eugenie and Beatrice, possibly at Royal Lodge for the last time or already at Costa Terra. And by February, Sarah has made her home in Portugal. But these are the things that no one can predict. Will the Epstein investigation in Congress really ask her to testify? Are there going to be more banking scandals? Will things get worse for Andrew, which would put more stress on Sarah? Is there a new way for the British press to cover this story? And last but not least, will Sarah Ferguson be quiet? Since this is what keeps the palace awake at night. Sarah Ferguson knows a great deal. She was married to Andrew during very important times. She was at events. She made friends. If she chose to share the information, it could do a big amount of harm. According to recent news, she's met with publishers and is thinking about writing an autobiography. When we went to this bar, she looked great in her costume. That she is looking into all of her options in order to make money and maybe tell her side of the story. Reports say that the palace is scared of this possibility. A memoir by Sarah Ferguson that she wrote while she was in hiding and had nothing to lose. That could be very bad. She could talk about decades of royal behavior behind the scenes. She knew who people were. What Andrew told her about Epstein was very clear to her. She might be able to say how the house treated her during this whole thing. It looks like King Charles's team is in crisis mode, working hard to stop this. But what do they have going for them? They took her home already. They pushed her out already. What else could they say? This is why the palace might lose out if Portugal is sent into exile. They have taken Sarah out of their direct control. They took away her reasons for wanting to protect the organization. They have given her every reason to speak out. The end. Let me finish this up. Sarah Ferguson is getting ready to leave Britain. She has to do it, not because she wants to, but because she has to. The royal family has taken away all of her support systems one by one. Her house. Her work with charities, her time in the media, her bond with Andrew, and her place in the royal family. It's all gone. She is running away to her daughter's house in Portugal, which is a place where famous people go to hide from tabloids, congressional investigations, and the palace's decision. Today, this is what being in exile looks like. Not jail time or being sent to a faraway place, rather, strategic distance and comfortable separation. Same cage as before, but in a different country. But here's something I want you to think about as the story goes on. Sarah Ferguson did something wrong. She kept up relationships she shouldn't have had. She took money that she shouldn't have. That wasn't always a good thing about her. But does that mean that institutions should be abandoned at this level? Does the fact that she has a link to Jeffrey Epstein mean she should lose everything, even her home? Does the fact that she is connected to Prince Andrew's scandal mean she can't be saved? What does this say about the monarchy? About its readiness to throw people away? About the cold judgments made by institutions? What happens when being faithful gets in the way? I'm not going to say that these questions have easy solutions because they don't. This is what I know. Sarah Ferguson is going to leave Britain in January. Maybe for all time. She is going to live in a fancy house in Portugal with rich foreigners and famous people from Hollywood. She will be away from the court, the tabloids, and the life she used to have. And the royal family will quietly breathe a sigh of relief, happy to have taken care of one more issue that was affecting their carefully controlled public image. This story isn't over, though. Sarah Ferguson could decide that it's time to tell her whole story while she's in Portugal and has nothing to lose. And when she does, all of the palace's careful planning could go wrong. What do you think? Is Sarah Ferguson's escape to Portugal a good idea? Are Beatrice and Eugenie helping their mom or just letting her get away with things? And most importantly, will running away to Portugal really keep her safe from the Epstein investigation? Or is she just putting off what will happen? Leave your thoughts in the box below. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on this because it's difficult, controversial, and very interesting. If you want to know what Sarah might say in her autobiography, watch my next movie. It will show you exactly what is making King Charles's team so scared. I'm going to talk about the meetings with publishers, the possible book deals, and why the royal family is so scared of what Sarah Ferguson might say. That video is up next. So make sure you're signed up and that alerts are turned on. If you thought this deep dive was helpful, click the like button. If you want to see more unbiased analysis of what's really going on in the royal family, subscribe. Also, send this to anyone who still thinks they know the whole story. Because, believe me, there's a lot more going on below the surface. To get away from things, Sarah Ferguson is now in Portugal. And what comes next could change everything we know about the House of York. It was the Epstein affair and the modern monarchy. The next film will be with you. Stay interested, stay skeptical, and keep asking questions about what the official story says.